The hotel lobby buzzed with the usual morning rush, guests checking out, staff hurrying to assist, and the faint clatter of dishes from the breakfast area. Among the crowd, a well-dressed man in a sharp gray suit stood near the reception desk, observing everything with a calm but focused gaze. He had been here many times before, but today was different. Today, he wasn't just another guest. As he waited, a staff member approached with a sharp tone. "Sir, you can't stand around here. Are you a guest?" Before he could answer, another employee chimed in, eyeing him suspiciously. Within moments, what started as a simple question turned into something far worse. The staff insisted he had no business being there, demanding he leave immediately. Guests turned to watch, sensing the growing tension. Little did they know, the man they were trying to remove wasn't just another customer. He was the owner of the entire hotel chain. And today, he was here for a reason. He was conducting a secret evaluation of his staff, and they had just made a critical mistake. What happens next will leave everyone speechless. Stay tuned because this story is about to take a shocking turn. The owner remained calm, watching as the staff members grew more impatient. One of them, a middle-aged man with a name tag reading manager, crossed his arms and narrowed his eyes. "Sir, I need you to leave now. This is a private property, and we don't allow loitering." A few guests whispered among themselves, sensing the situation escalating. Some looked uncomfortable, while others simply watched, waiting to see what would happen next. The owner took a deep breath, glancing around the lobby he had spent years perfecting. Every detail, from the polished marble floors to the custom chandeliers, had been part of his vision. This hotel was his pride, yet here he was, being pushed out like an outsider. He thought about revealing the truth right then and there, but something held him back. How many other guests had been treated this way? Was this a one-time mistake, or was there a bigger issue at play? A younger staff member hesitated before stepping forward. "Maybe we should check the system first," she suggested, glancing at the others. But the manager waved her off. "No need. I know exactly what's going on here." His confidence was unsettling. He had no idea what was coming next. The owner remained still, his expression unreadable as the manager continued pressing him. "I won't ask again. Leave now, or I'll have security escort you out." His voice carried authority, but it also revealed something else: assumption. The younger staff member shifted uneasily, clearly sensing something wasn't right. She hesitated, her fingers hovering over the keyboard at the check-in desk, but the manager shot her a glare, silently warning her not to interfere. The owner scanned the room, taking note of the employees' body language. Some looked embarrassed, others indifferent. One bellhop in the corner whispered something to a coworker, shaking his head. It was clear not everyone agreed with how the situation was unfolding, but no one was willing to step in. He wondered how many of them had witnessed similar incidents before. How many guests had been wrongly judged based on nothing more than an assumption? Just as he was about to speak, a security guard entered the lobby, alerted by the front desk's call. He was tall and broad-shouldered, walking with a sense of purpose. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, looking between the manager and the owner. The manager crossed his arms. "Yes, this man is refusing to leave." The owner turned toward the guard, studying his expression. Unlike the manager, he didn't seem immediately hostile, just doing his job. But the real test was about to begin. Would he blindly follow orders, or would he take a moment to question the situation? Meanwhile, in the background, a guest recorded the scene on their phone, sensing that something wasn't right. They weren't the only one. The young receptionist nervously glanced at her computer screen. She had just checked the system and knew exactly who the man standing before them was. But would she have the courage to speak up, Or would she let the situation spiral further? The air was thick with tension. Every second that passed made the moment feel heavier, the divide between right and wrong growing clearer. The owner waited, giving them all a chance to make the right choice. But the question remained, would they? The security guard stepped forward, his gaze shifting between the manager and the owner. There was a brief pause, as if he were assessing the situation, but then his posture stiffened. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave," he said, his tone firm but neutral. The manager smirked, as if satisfied with how things were unfolding, while the owner remained calm, his hands still at his sides. The younger receptionist, still behind the desk, bit her lip. Her fingers trembled slightly over the keyboard. She had seen the name that popped up on the reservation list, but the weight of the moment kept her frozen in place. Should she speak up? What if she was wrong? What if stepping in cost her job? She glanced over at the bellhop, who was also watching the exchange, his brow furrowed in uncertainty. A murmur ran through the lobby as a few guests continued to watch, some whispering to one another. The guest recording the scene moved slightly closer, making sure to capture everything. "This doesn't feel right," they muttered under their breath, but no one else spoke up. The owner exhaled slowly, still giving them a chance to correct their mistake. "Do you really want to do this?" His voice was steady, almost patient, but there was an underlying weight to his words. It wasn't a plea, it was a test. The manager scoffed. "Oh, I'm sure," he said dismissively. "You're making a scene. This is a private establishment, and we have every right to refuse service." He turned back to the security guard. "Remove him now." The tension in the room thickened. The receptionist slipped down, her fingers moving quickly over the keyboard, pulling up the profile again just to be sure. Her stomach tightened. She knew she had to say something. She had to. But before she could gather the courage to speak, the security guard reached for his radio. The owner watched it all unfold with an almost eerie sense of patience. He had seen this happen before, not just to himself, but to others. He had seen assumptions dictate outcomes, seen people wield authority carelessly, never once questioning if they were making a mistake. The bellhop took a slow step forward, his voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe we should," but the manager silenced him with a sharp look. The owner let a few more seconds pass, watching the choices being made in real time. Then, just as the security guard lifted his radio to call for backup, he reached into his pocket, pulling out something small but powerful, his key card. He held it up for everyone to see. The room fell silent. Eyes darted between the card and the man holding it. The receptionist's breath caught in her throat. She had seen that kind of key card before. So had the bellhop. So had the manager. The owner didn't say a word. He didn't need to. The truth was about to unfold, and none of them were ready for it. For a moment, the entire lobby was frozen. The key card in the owner's hand gleamed under the lights, a silent but undeniable truth that no one had been ready to confront. The receptionist's face drained of color, her fingers still hovering over the keyboard. The bellhop's eyes widened, and even the security guard hesitated, his radio still raised but his grip loosening. The only person who remained oblivious to the weight of the moment was the manager. He let out an exaggerated sigh, rolling his eyes. "Oh great, so you have a key card. That doesn't mean anything. Anyone can get access to a room." He crossed his arms, his confidence unwavering, his ego too inflated to recognize the mistake he was making. "I don't care what kind of game you're playing. You don't belong here." The owner exhaled sharply, his patience thinning. He turned the key card slightly in his hand, revealing a barely noticeable gold emblem in the corner, an emblem that only appeared on one type of key card, the kind issued to the owner of the hotel. The bellhop noticed it first. His breath hitched, and he took an involuntary step back. Then the receptionist saw it. Her hands flew to her mouth, eyes darting to the computer screen to double-check what she already knew. The security guard's brow furrowed. He lowered his radio, looking more closely at the key card, his hesitation growing. "Sir, what kind of card is that?" The owner didn't answer immediately. Instead, he slowly turned to the receptionist. "You've seen my name, haven't you?" His voice was calm, measured, but with an undeniable authority that hadn't been there before. She swallowed hard, her hands shaking slightly as she minimized the guest list and pulled up the executive records. There, next to the title Asterisk Owner and CEO Asterisk, was his name. The name on his reservation. The same name on the credit card he had handed over when checking in. Her lips parted, but before she could speak, the bellhop beat her to it. "He's the—" "Enough of this," the manager barked, his voice sharp with irritation. He turned toward the security guard. "Why are we still standing here? Get him out." "I'd think carefully before you finish that sentence," the owner interrupted, his voice quiet but firm. He finally turned his full attention to the manager, and for the first time, the man hesitated. It was only for a second, but the owner caught it. The security guard was the next to break the silence. His voice, once firm and commanding, now carried an edge of uncertainty. "Sir, I need to know. Who are you, really?" Instead of answering, the owner reached into his suit jacket and pulled out his wallet. He flipped it open, revealing a sleek, embossed business card. He extended it toward the security guard, who hesitated before taking it. The moment his eyes landed on the name, his jaw clenched. His grip tightened on the card as he turned slightly, his body language shifting. The manager, still oblivious, scoffed. "Oh, what now? A fake business card? You think that's going to?" The security guard suddenly took a step away from the owner, his posture straightening. His next words came out slow, measured. "Sir, I need you to confirm something for me." He turned toward the receptionist, holding up the card. "Is this the same name listed under the ownership records?" The receptionist, still visibly shaken, barely managed a nod. "Ah, yes, that's him." The bellhop inhaled sharply. A few guests, who had continued watching from the sidelines, whispered among themselves. The guest with the phone camera zoomed in, sensing that whatever was happening had just taken a turn. The manager, however, still refused to put the pieces together. He let out a forced, mocking laugh. "Oh, so now we're all just going to believe this nonsense." He turned to the owner, his expression twisted with disbelief. "You seriously expect me to believe that Asterisk you Asterisk own this place?" The owner finally took a step closer, closing the distance between them. His eyes locked onto the manager's, unblinking. "I don't expect you to believe it," he said simply. "I expect you to realize you just made the biggest mistake of your career." The weight of those words settled into the air. The security guard, who had remained stiffly professional until now, took another step back, almost instinctively distancing himself from the situation. The receptionist lowered her gaze, her fingers twisting nervously. The bellhop held his breath. But the manager, he wasn't backing down. Not yet. His pride wouldn't allow it. His face twisted with anger, and instead of accepting the reality, he doubled down. "You know what? I don't care Asterisk who Asterisk you claim to be. This is Asterisk my Asterisk hotel to run, and I don't take orders from." Actually, the owner interrupted, his voice low but sharp. "This Asterisk isn't Asterisk your hotel to run anymore." Silence. A cold, crushing silence. The weight of those words sank in, and for the first time, real doubt flickered across the manager's face. The tension in the room had reached its breaking point, But the moment of reckoning wasn't over yet. Not even close. The manager's smirk faltered for the first time. His mouth opened slightly, as if to protest, but no words came out. His eyes darted to the security guard, then to the receptionist, then back to the owner, looking for someone. Anyone to back him up. But there was no support left. The air in the lobby had changed, thick with realization. The truth had settled in, and no one was coming to his defense. The owner let the silence stretch for a moment longer before he spoke again, his voice calm but unwavering. I've been listening to complaints about the way this hotel has been managed, the way you have been managing it. But I wanted to see it for myself before making any decisions. He took another step forward, watching as the manager's face paled. And now I have my answer. The manager's jaw clenched. He tried to laugh, to wave it all off as a misunderstanding. Look, this is ridiculous. There's no way you expect me to believe. I don't need you to believe anything. The owner cut him off. I own this hotel. And you. He tilted his head slightly. You're fired. The words landed like a hammer. The receptionist audibly gasped. The bellhop took a small step backward, his hands gripping the luggage cart tightly. Even the security guard seemed unsure of what to do next. The manager blinked. Then he scoffed, shaking his head. No, you can't just fire me. His voice was strained now, desperate. I've been running this place for years. You don't know anything about. I know enough, the owner interrupted. I know that instead of offering good customer service, you judged a guest based on your own assumptions. I know that instead of following protocol, you tried to have someone removed without cause. I know that instead of recognizing a mistake, you doubled down on it. His voice was steady, unwavering. And I know that none of that is acceptable in my hotel. The manager's lips parted, but no excuse came. He turned to the security guard, looking for help. You work for me. Do something. The security guard hesitated, then shook his head. Actually, sir, he sighed, straightening his posture. I work for the hotel, which means I work for him. He nodded toward the owner, his expression unreadable. And if you've been fired, that means I have no orders to follow from you. Panic flickered across the manager's face. He turned to the receptionist, but she avoided his gaze, quickly clicking through her computer screen, as if pretending to be busy. The bellhop had already started to step away, pretending to focus on luggage. He was completely alone. No, this is a mistake, the manager muttered. His hands curled into fists as he shook his head. You'll regret this. You have no idea what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing, the owner replied smoothly. He turned to the security guard. Please escort him out. The finality in his voice left no room for argument. The security guard stepped forward, his tone firm but professional. Sir, I need you to leave the premises immediately. The manager stood frozen, his chest rising and falling rapidly, as if his mind was still trying to process what had just happened. He looked around one last time, searching for an ally, but all he found were silent stares. Finally, with a frustrated growl, he turned and stormed toward the exit, his shoes clicking loudly against the polished floor. The tension in the room didn't ease until the front doors swung shut behind him. A slow, almost hesitant murmur spread through the lobby, guests whispering to each other, trying to process what they had just witnessed. The owner turned back toward the staff. The receptionist sat stiffly at her desk, her hands still hovering over the keyboard. The bellhop stood rigidly, unsure if he should stay or go. The security guard shifted slightly, waiting for further instructions. The owner exhaled. Then, to everyone's surprise, he offered a small, reassuring smile. "I didn't come here to scare anyone. I came here to see how things really run when no one's looking." His voice was calm again, his authority still present, but no longer carrying the sharp edge it had moments ago. "I know that not everyone here is like him, and I know that good employees deserve good leadership." The receptionist relaxed slightly, finally lowering her hands. The bellhop straightened, as if encouraged by the words. The security guard nodded. The owner's gaze moved across the room, taking in the staff. "Things are going to change," he said simply. "For the better." For the first time that day, the atmosphere in the hotel shifted, not with tension, but with something else. A quiet, cautious hope. As the tension settled, the owner took a final look around the hotel lobby. The once stiff employees now seemed to breathe easier. The weight of the former manager's reign finally lifted. The receptionist offered a small, hesitant smile, and the bellhop gave an appreciative nod. Even the security guard, who had maintained his professionalism throughout, seemed relieved. The owner turned to the receptionist. "Make sure to put a notice out for a new manager, someone who understands what real hospitality means." She nodded quickly, eager to show she was up for the task. A guest nearby, who had been watching the entire scene unfold, approached cautiously. "I just wanted to say, it's nice to see someone who actually cares about how a business is run," he said sincerely. The owner gave a nod. "That's the goal." With that, he adjusted his jacket and headed for the exit. But just before he left, he paused, turning back for one last glance at his hotel. The place would need changes, but he was ready to make them. As the doors closed behind him, a quiet but undeniable shift had already begun. The hotel was on its way to becoming what it was always meant to be, a place where everyone was treated with respect.